Alexander Whitmore had everything money could buy. His mansion overlooked the city like a golden crown. His business empire stretched across 3 continents, and his bank account held more zeros than most people could count. But all his wealth couldn't fix the one thing that mattered most, his daughter's silence. 7-year-old Emma had never spoken a single word. Born into luxury, she moved through their marble halls like a ghost, her brilliant blue eyes holding conversations her lips could never voice. Alexander had spent millions seeking answers. The world's top specialists flew in from London, Tokyo, and New York. They ran countless tests, tried experimental treatments, and offered theories that led nowhere. There's nothing physically wrong, the doctors always concluded. Her vocal cords are perfect. Her hearing is exceptional. It's just... They would pause, searching for words that didn't exist. Emma's condition remained a mystery wrapped in silence. The little girl understood everything perfectly. She was brilliant, solving complex puzzles and reading books far beyond her age. But when she opened her mouth to speak, nothing emerged except frustration that burned in her chest like fire. She watched other children laugh and shout on playgrounds, their voices carrying freely through the air like birds she could never catch. Alexander's wife had left 2 years ago, unable to bear the weight of her daughter's silence. "I can't live with a child who won't even call me mother," she had whispered before disappearing into the night. Now it was just father and daughter, bound together by love and separated by an invisible wall that money couldn't break. Every morning, Alexander knelt beside Emma's bed and whispered, "Today might be the day, princess. Today you might find your voice." But each sunset brought the same crushing disappointment. The silence stretched between them like an ocean neither could cross, growing deeper with every passing day. The city market bustled with afternoon chaos when Alexander decided to take Emma shopping for her birthday gifts. He believed that normal experiences might somehow unlock her voice. Vendors shouted prices, children laughed, and music spilled from street performers. Emma walked beside him, absorbing every sound she couldn't make. Near the fountain, a peculiar sight caught their attention. An elderly woman sat on a wooden crate, her weathered hands mixing something in a clay pot. Her silver hair fell in intricate braids, and her clothes seemed to belong to another century. Most people hurried past, but Emma stopped, drawn by an invisible force. The woman looked up, her ancient eyes meeting Emma's with startling intensity. "Child," she said in a voice like autumn leaves, "you carry a heavy burden of silence." Alexander stepped protectively closer, but the woman raised her hand peacefully. "I see souls, not bank accounts. Your daughter's voice isn't lost, it's trapped." With respect, "We've consulted the best doctors, Alexander began, but the woman interrupted with a gentle smile. "Doctors treat the body. I work with older forces." She lifted the clay pot, revealing a liquid that seemed to shimmer between gold and silver. "This is made from herbs that grow where lightning strikes the earth, mixed with water from springs that never see sunlight. It awakens what sleeps within." Emma moved closer, mesmerized. The liquid seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, calling to something deep in her chest. Alexander's rational mind screamed warnings, but desperation whispered louder. "What do you want for it?" he asked, reaching for his wallet. The woman shook her head. "Payment comes after miracles, not before. But know this, true magic always demands a price. Sometimes that price is everything you think you know about the world." She poured the mysterious liquid into a small glass vial, its surface catching light like captured starfire. 3 drops on her tongue at sunset. No more, no less. And remember, some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. Back home, Alexander paced his study while Emma sat quietly, the vial glowing softly on the table between them. Sunset painted the windows crimson, and the moment of decision arrived like thunder. His scientific mind battled his desperate heart. Everything he believed about the world said this was impossible nonsense. But love makes fools of even the wisest men. "What do you think, princess?" he whispered, kneeling beside her chair. Emma's eyes fixed on the vial with an intensity that made his breath catch. For the first time in her life, she looked hopeful. With trembling hands, he uncorked the vial. The liquid sparkled like liquid starlight, releasing a scent of rain and electricity. Emma opened her mouth trustingly, and Alexander carefully placed 3 drops on her tongue. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. Emma's body went rigid, her eyes rolling back until only white showed. Alexander caught her as she convulsed, her small frame shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Panic seized him as he reached for his phone to call emergency services. But then something impossible happened. Light began emanating from Emma's throat, soft at first, then growing brighter. The glow spread through her chest, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Alexander held her close, feeling energy coursing through her small body like electricity through wires. The convulsion stopped abruptly. Emma's eyes fluttered open, now holding flecks of the same golden light he'd seen in the vial. She looked at him with wonder and something else, recognition, as if seeing him clearly for the first time. Her lips parted. A sound emerged, barely audible but unmistakably real. Then another, stronger. Her vocal cords awakened after 7 years of silence, trembling with newborn power. "Daddy!" The word fell from her lips like a prayer answered. Alexander's world shattered and rebuilt itself in that single moment. Tears flooded his face as he pulled her close, feeling her voice vibrate against his chest. 7 years of waiting, hoping, and praying had led to this impossible instant when his daughter finally found her voice in a stranger's mysterious gift. The joy lasted exactly 3 days. Emma spoke constantly, as if making up for years of silence. Her voice was beautiful, clear as crystal bells, and Alexander felt drunk on happiness. But on the 4th morning, he discovered the price the old woman had warned about. Emma sat at breakfast, casually moving objects without touching them. Her juice glass slid across the table at her glance. Toast floated to her plate. When Alexander dropped his coffee cup in shock, it stopped mid-full and drifted back to his hand. "Emma, how are you doing that?" he whispered, his voice shaking. She looked up with innocent eyes that now held swirls of golden light. "The same way I'm talking, Daddy. The medicine didn't just give me my voice back. It woke up everything inside me." Alexander's world tilted. His logical mind rejected what he was seeing, but the floating salt shaker made denial impossible. Emma wasn't just speaking. She was displaying abilities that belonged in fantasy movies, not his dining room. "Can you make it stop?" he asked desperately. Emma tilted her head thoughtfully. "Why would I want to? For 7 years, I couldn't do anything. Now I can do everything." She gestured, and the curtains opened by themselves, letting sunlight stream across the floor. That afternoon, Alexander raced back to the market, but the old woman was gone. Other vendors claimed they'd never seen anyone matching her description. It was as if she'd vanished like smoke, leaving only questions and an impossible daughter behind. Emma's abilities grew stronger daily. She could hear thoughts, see through walls, and move mountains of objects with her mind. Alexander realized a mysterious liquid hadn't just unlocked her voice. It had awakened something ancient and powerful that had been sleeping in her soul. The woman's words echoed in his memory. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. He'd wanted his daughter to speak, but he'd received something far more complex and terrifying than he'd bargained for. Now Emma was no longer just a silent princess. She was becoming something else entirely, something that might change the world forever. 6 months later, Alexander watched Emma from his study window. She floated 3 feet above the garden, surrounded by dancing butterflies that responded to her gentle laughter. Her voice, once the most precious sound in the world, now carried power that could reshape reality itself. At first, he'd tried to hide her abilities. Private tutors, isolated lessons, carefully controlled environments. But Emma was done with hiding. "I spent 7 years trapped in silence, Daddy. I won't spend 7 more trapped in secrets." She was right, and Alexander knew it. The world needed to see what was possible when love conquered impossibility. Emma's gifts weren't a curse. They were evolution. She could heal the sick with her voice, calm storms with her thoughts, and bring hope to places where none existed. The old woman returned one evening, appearing in their garden as mysteriously as she'd vanished. Emma ran to her like greeting an old friend, their conversation happening in languages that predated words. "You're afraid," the woman told Alexander, her ancient eyes kind but knowing. "You think you've lost your daughter to something beyond your understanding." "Haven't I?" he whispered. "You found her," the woman replied. "For 7 years, she was lost in silence. Now she's exactly who she was always meant to be. The question is, will you be brave enough to let her become it?" Alexander looked at Emma, glowing with inner light as she spoke to birds in their own language. She was still his daughter, still the little girl who loved bedtime stories and chocolate ice cream. But she was also something magnificent and impossible, a bridge between what was and what could be. "The price," he said quietly. "What was the real price?" The old woman smiled, believing in miracles. "The hardest payment of all." Emma's laughter filled the air like music, and Alexander finally understood. He hadn't lost his daughter to magic. Magic had given his daughter back to herself, and to a world that desperately needed proof that impossible things could still happen when love refused to surrender to silence.